Your boy didn't put his shades on. He in his cool zone.
Y'all let me know if I look better. I think I look equally as good with them on and off.
You act like a Leo. You act like a me. So ask me that question you just tried to ask me.
About the friend zone? Okay. Have you tried to put a dude in the friend zone and then what happened?
He just had to be there. So he just had to accept it. Because you got to accept it, get with it, or get lost.
What was the reasons that you was putting him in the friend zone?
Wasn't interested, wasn't attracted, maybe wasn't in the right season in my life to have anything more than that.
Yeah, it's a lot of different intangibles. So I know you do your coaching, and then I also do my coaching as well.
Okay.
So whenever I see a dude going into the friend zone, I kind of blame him more than I blame the woman, because that means that he got a lot of deficiencies about him. He needs to be more in shape, better teeth, dress better, better car, better house, better job, love himself, more charisma. He needs all of that. Because y'all eliminate us for the smallest and the dumbest things. So you can't leave any room for any of that stuff to be prevalent.
So are you telling me you've never been friend zoned?
It's very rare. And then most of the people that try to friend zone me, it's usually indifference. Like people don't really know how to. I'm the first time that they've ever seen me, so they don't know how to react to it. If you seen a unicorn, you wouldn't know how to react to it. It's not that you do or don't like it; you don't know what it is. But once everybody else starts interacting with it, then you know how to interact with it.
It's the confidence for me. I love it though. How do you avoid being friend zoned? Does your intuition let you know that the woman is not interested in you like that, so you don't even try it, so you can avoid the friend zoning? Or do you just feel like you're that guy, anybody you want, you can have?
The second one will be purely me speaking with my ego, and I can't be considered a high value man if I lead with my ego. So that vulnerability of the first one, I have a really good vetting process.
Okay.
I grew up with a really good mom, great aunties, a lot of sisters. So I've already heard those disrespectful conversations that y'all have during Thanksgiving in the kitchen that nobody else should hear. And I've already read the group chat that nobody else is allowed to.
Who in the world let you read the group chat?
I'm not about to snitch on
Tell
nobody,
on them.
but I'm going to just say that I've already seen the worst of the worst, and I know the things that men get eliminated for. So since I've been able to work from literally ground zero, being born in Flint and then becoming a star in Atlanta, I got to see the steps. I hope what I'm saying making sense.
Can I get some of these steps?
Well, first, probably what everybody is wondering right now, yes, these are veneers. And I wish that I was one of those fortunate people that were able to just have perfect teeth from birth, but I wasn't. And I really wish I would have had braces when I was younger, but that wasn't cool for our generation to have braces when we were younger. So I went and got veneers. That's one. This beautiful lineup that y'all see that I did myself, that's two. That's a part of grooming. Grooming is very important to women. They look at your fingernails, they look at your teeth, they look at your hygiene, the way you smell, the way you carry yourself, the jewelry.
It smells good, ladies.
Thank you, and etc. etc. So usually when you do get eliminated, it's because it's some type of deficiency that you have that's a deal breaker for her. It's rare that it's like what she going through in her life, because a lot of women that use a dude to get over what they're going through in their life. So that deficiency got to be big as a motherfucker.
And ladies, this is just a commercial break. I don't want you all to continue to use a man to get over the man that has hurt you. Just book a call with me. I'm a life coach. I support women on their journey of healing, self-love, and self-discovery. And I specialize in women that have experienced heartbreak, divorce, domestic violence, all of that. I'm also a content strategist. So if you want to get your content together, if that's how you express yourself, come holler at your girl. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. I want to ask you this. Is one of your top love languages words of affirmation?
No, that's actually really low.
I can't tell, because every time I give you a compliment, it's just like you light up.
Well, I don't think that men and in their totality get a lot of compliments as in general. But to me, I look at the compliment more as an act of service, because you thought about it and it verbally translated. So to me, it's more than just a word. That's an action. But my love languages, I like all of them, but in order to probably be acts of service, quality time, Gifts is low, words is low, physical touch is in the middle, and then gifts and then words. Anybody can talk.
So, what's an example of acts of service that your lady could do for you that would make your day?
I remember my ex would, when we would come home, she would know that I would be tired. I'm one of those people, I like to do one thing per day. So whatever I'm doing that day, I'm done after I do that. So when we would go home, she would have the Welch's white grape drink, which is delicious, by the way. Thank you, Welch's. And she would always have that ready for me by the time that I got out the shower and hit the bed. And whether she was upset with me, whether she, no matter what mood we was in with each other, she would always have that. So I appreciate her for that.
Shout out to you, boo. So I did hear you mention high valued men. Are you a disciple of the late Kevin Samuels?
I agree with some of his ideologies, and I think that I'm more so a disciple of the whole manosphere community as a whole. Fresh and Fit, MJ, Get Right, FitX Fearless, Kevin, Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Waller, Marquette, like all of them.
Oh, you're well studied.
Yeah, I'm very well studied. I'm a hybrid. I'm a mixture of all of their ideologies in my own.
Would you consider yourself to be misogynistic?
I would have to know what the literal definition of that is.
We're gonna have to look up the literal definition, but I know what it feels like. It's almost like maybe somewhat of a womanizer. Or maybe feeling like men are superior to women in all areas. I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's look it up.
We can make the assumption that that's it. I wouldn't mind. Misogyny definition.
The definition of misogyny: the dislike or of contempt for or ingrained prejudice against women.
I would have to say no. I have a different type of love and admiration for women. I know that as from our masculine side, the feminine side of things has so many different intangibles that men can never tap into. Like when I went to prom, my prom date said we were going to wear fuchsia. I don't know what the hell fuchsia is. I don't know what lavender is. I don't know what any of that stuff is, but that's not for me. So even in my home, I always.
So knowing your colors is feminine?
That's extremely feminine. If you meet a dude and he knows what fuchsia is, that might be a problem.
Do you know what periwinkle is?
No.
He didn't even let me get the whole word of the color out. Mm-hmm. Periwinkle.
Red, blue, white, green, orange.
You know all his primary colors.
Yeah, yes. That's a masculine thing.
I ain't never heard that. I want y'all to chime in. Is it feminine to know your colors? To know that fuchsia is like a hot pink. What was the other color?
Oh man.
Lavender is like a light purple.
If a dude know what hot pink is and he not Prince, then
what? Stop. You can know your colors. That is not feminine. Okay.
Great.
Okay, I'm roll with it.
And but to answer the misogyny thing, I have a deep appreciation for women. I think that we are in a generation where our current women are at an all-time low as far as their acts of service and their admiration for the African American man. So sometimes that hurt because we're the only demographic in the world that has our women that are pinned against us in a global scale. And that was the breath of fresh air of finding out that I was from Igbo, Nigeria, and tapping back in with the women that never left Africa. You see a clear-cut difference. It's night and day.
So do you feel like that goes both ways in America as far as the way men and women are against each other right now? Or do you feel like it's solely women against men and men are still genuinely trying?
I think that for a long time, there's been this thing called immunity. And immunity is, I learned it when I was growing up with my sisters, how much trouble I would get in for something as opposed to when they did something. And sometimes when you give people an out, they use that out tremendously. So like government assistance really effed us up because most women knew that they can make irresponsible decisions and still be able to be like, I can get my Section 8, my food stamps, my welfare, and still be able to move forward without him if I don't want him. So I don't necessarily have to pick a good man because a good man can be the government if I want it to be.
We're going to come back to that. Okay, so we're back. We're back with the conversation. And before we left off, we were kind of talking about the manosphere and the high-valued man and the value of a woman and the relationship between black men and black women in America. and how we bridge the gap with that. And is it a one-sided thing? Is it women not really showing the love and attention that men need, or is it going both ways? Because I'll tell you, we women, we feel the same way y'all feel, and I feel like that's the problem. Everybody is like pointing fingers, but there's three pointing back at ourselves. And what's the real problem? Because we got to find a solution. And if we don't know what the problem is, we can't identify it. How do we come up with a solution? But let me get your opinion on that. Like, what do you feel is the gap between black men and black women in America?
Yeah, so I like to use myself as an example because I can't speak for all men and all women out there. But for my experience, I found when I look in the mirror and like, Yusuf, what is it that you're calling in for a partner, right? When I'm clear about that, I could then provide that to the woman I'm trying to engage and say, hey, I'm looking for a friend, a foundation of travel, raw foods, playfulness, of some art, some chemistry, right? And so when I'm able to identify that, she has the opportunity to say, yes, this aligns with me and I want to do this, so let's continue, or no. When I don't walk into it with clarity, then it leads for a lot of assumptions to be made. And so then I find out myself that I'm showing up as a representative, right? Like, let me just show my best foot, as opposed to actually who I really am and what I love and enjoy doing, right? So when I'm being met in that space of sharing what I love and it's in return, like, yes, then I find out to be more successful in my interactions. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, same question. Okay, and I like that. I like that answer too. I'm gonna say that when a woman turns 18, the world opens up to her. So that same guy that was 40 years old that was flirting with you, that your cousin said, "Hey, she's 17, don't flirt with her." And when you turn 18, that barrier is no longer there. So you've had years and years and years of practice and discernment and intuition. I gotta quotate that on figuring out which men have what intentions with you from the time that you're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, with all of the men that have approached you in whatever way they've approached you. My advice to all women is always whoever your dream man is, isolate your efforts to him because he's going to get the best version of you. And the problem with most women is that they have so many deficiencies themselves, whether they're not in the gym, whether they don't know how to wash their mouth, whether they're not feminine enough, that they'll settle for a man that doesn't have that has the same or similar deficiencies and trauma bond with them. And then that's when they get out of a long marriage and be like, oh, that was never my person. It was never your person to begin with. So the problem is that our women don't take advantage of the optionality that they have. Whereas opposed to as a man, we have to have everything already set. It never started off like that. We started off as cavemen. But in a capitalistic society, we have to have our foundation set before we can even become appealing in the dating market. All you have to do is turn 18 and be somewhat attractive. So I don't want to sound like I'm blaming the women, but the women have more availability for certain things to happen for them earlier. And so they have to hold more accountability for what happens earlier with them.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So the way you're saying it seems like you feel like there's a lot of options for women. Is that true?
Oh, is that what you're asking? If there's optionality? Well, before I was here, my dad was here, and that was a hell of a guy. So I'm gonna say that for every there's how many players are in the NBA? How many players are in the NFL? How many players are in the NHL? How many doctors are there? How many there's a bunch of men who are already, as you guys would call them, turnkey, that are ready to have a submissive feminine counterpart. I think the problem is just that what they bring to the table monetarily and fiscally, most women now don't bring to the table in feminine essence to match it on the other side. If I make $1 million, you have to have $1 million worth of femininity to follow that and to be able to substantial and make that come full circle. I hope what I'm saying making sense.
It's making sense. Okay. I don't know whether I agree with it or not, but
the results of what's going on in the current dating market is proof enough.
So being that you've been around me a couple of times, what would you say my femininity is worth?
You know, if I'm talking about you specifically, I like your one of the lost arts in being a woman is emotional continuity. and I can appreciate your emotional continuity. You're the same person online, offline, in person, in person with every single meetup. You have a very even keeled temper about yourself. You're approachable. You approach people with a good essence that makes them feel welcome too. And to me, that is the synergy because women are socialites. That's the reason why they're so catty toward each other because they want to know where you exist on the totem pole in society. So I have to be catty towards you to make you feel like that I'm above you. That's where that comes from. When the cattiness doesn't exist within certain people, or it's at least suppressed to where you can't really detect it, then that's I feel like they have more feminine essence inside of them.
Did you answer the question?
I did.
I mean, you gave me some. The reason why I asked what you think it's
You
worth,
just didn't assign a dollar value to it.
because you said if you had $1 million, you would need a woman with $1 million worth of feminine essence.
Right.
That's why I put a worth on it.
Oh, you wanted me to give you like a dollar amount of what yours would be? Honestly, I wouldn't be able to detect that because the determining factor would be the reason I respect Michelle Obama so much is because she was a helpmate to a man who ran the entire 50 states for 8 years. And while still being a mom, while still running her businesses and still being in her feminine essence, still being fit, fertile, and cooperative the entire time. So her amount would be unquantifiable because there's no other woman short of maybe Oprah and Beyonce maybe that I would be able to say could have filled those shoes. That's it's no dollar amount. That's like the top of that's like the cream of the crop. So, and it's only because of the proof. So to answer yours, I would have to see you interact with a man for a long amount of time that garnishes the same amount of hierarchy that Obama did, and you to be that amazing counterpart to make sure that he stays afloat.
What is your opinion about what Vigilante is talking about?
Ask the question one more time.
What is your opinion on Vigilante's thoughts on femininity and women and men and the relationships and women's access to men and options?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Now, I love what it's Marcus, right?
Yeah.
What Marcus was just sharing because it brings in that aspect of how do we assign value. And for me, I don't look at it monetarily. It's more of how do I feel when I'm with this person? Do I feel safe when I'm sharing my secrets or I'm sharing some of the challenges that I go through? Is that space being held? Do I have to go seek out? Because not everyone's meant to hold space, right? Sometimes you gotta go to a therapist and they're the ones that hold it. So it's not for the feminine to hold everything. But it is important for me to know when I move, I have someone who's watching my back. And if that's the woman in my life, that's going to be the value that's important to me, right? And also I look at it as far as like nourishment, right? There could be a way where she's able to nourish my heart, my soul through the food, through the access, through the connections, right? There's more ways of determining value than financially or physically. It's just more of, because I could do all that, right? Or if she's doing all that, because now the dynamics of relationship have shifted, where if she's the one who's providing things financially, but I'm the one that's providing it from a mental or spiritual perspective, right? Do we find harmony there? And that's what I'm seeking out. It's like, when I'm moving around, am I at harmony? Am I at peace? And if I'm going home or I'm falling asleep every night and I'm feeling that, then that is what I'm cultivating. It's not anything outside of that. Because I've had the money and have money, and I haven't found value or happiness in that. Because as my brother Marcus said, that's a capitalist way of thinking and mindset. And so I've learned from me being out in the woods of Panama, right out in the forest, and now I'm with my counterpart and we're out there picking up coconuts, that has value over anything that I've done or that I've spent money on, right? And so it really comes down to what is it that we're forming together, and are we doing it at the highest of our capacity? And does that elevate, does that edify us? And if so, this is a person I want to continue to have more interactions with.
I think you all have very different perspectives, and I have different. I agree with different parts of what you're saying. Do you all agree that everyone possesses masculine and feminine energy, and how do you feel that men should balance those energies?
You want to go first? Sure. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. I'm a Cancer male, so I'm very much in tune with what they say, the feminine energy. If they attribute crying to feminine energy, well, that's my superpower. That's the way that I move energy in my body through my tears, through water flowing through me. And so I feel in most relationships that I'm the one that carries the emotional pillar, and that could be challenging at times. It's like y'all need to do your work. Like while I can't hold it, if I'm holding it here, that might take away from me showing up sexually. Because it's like, well, I can't. If I'm doing all this, and how do you want me to show up? And not how do you want me to just other ways for me to step up and be a man in other aspects of it. But with that said, right, I do believe in the soft feminine woman. That's what I'm most attracted to, and so the woman has to be softer than I am. I mean, I don't show up as a soft man. I think if you look at me, you can check that out and see that. And yeah, when I really fell into it, it has to be a synergy, because also being able to move forward with the masculine energy is important. So while I like to see leadership, it shows up in many spaces. It doesn't need to show up in our relationship, but outside of it, she's got to be able to carry her own and move in a way that works for her.
You need me to repeat the question?
Sure.
So, do you believe that everyone possesses masculine and feminine energies, and if so, how do you feel that men should balance those energies, or how would you define yourself as being able to step into those energies?
Okay. I'm gonna answer it, and I'm gonna ask you a question too. Okay, so my answer to that would be, I do think that both people possess masculine and feminine energy. I think that the problem is that we don't channel it through each other. I think that with my counterpart, I would rather channel my feminine energy through her, so that way it creates a funnel and a tunnel to where it can be more understood. Instead of her sending her masculine energy in it, like throwing it at me, she can channel it through me. I think that that'd be better for partners to do. And then my question for you was, when do you think that it's appropriate, or like universally appropriate, for a woman to be in her masculine energy?
I think masculine energy is not being masculine. So masculine energy would be like action. So sometimes we want to manifest certain things, and we can have the ideas and we can think about it and write them down and be in our creativity, which is our femininity, but we have to put action to make those things happen. We have to be leaders in certain areas. We have to do, which is masculine. Like feminine is being, masculine is doing. So sometimes we got to get up and do some things and make some things happen. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we are being masculine. It's just masculine energy. And I feel like with men, you all can tap into your feminine energy by being creative or being sensual to your woman and holding space for her emotions, expressing yourself effectively, having emotional intelligence in a way that you can balance your masculine and feminine, where it's not too much that you're just dumping, but you're able to express. So I feel like it's a balance. Like we all got to tap in. But I love what you said about channeling that through your partners. Give us some examples for those that don't know what that looks like.
I forgot whose podcast I was on. I think it was Mr. Let Go, and he had another woman that was there too. And he asked me if I felt like I was emotionally unavailable. And instead of answering the question to him, I leaned over and looked at the woman and said, "Do you feel like I'm emotionally unavailable?" Because since women are more geared through their emotions, you will be able to tell me better than he's able to tell me. So I was trying to channel the answer through her and her dissent. Now, her answer wasn't going to be the end all be all, but she was the most feminine thing in the room. So it made the most sense to ask her. And her answer was that it was a balance. She felt like that the topic that we were talking about didn't involve having emotional availability. So she had to go through the rest of the interview and tell me off camera after, based off of the rest of the conversation. But that's like an example.
So you don't think that was like deflecting from answering the question, or showing that, because it was directly for you to answer about yourself. So I would say that would be a reflection of your self-awareness to be able to answer the question versus having someone else answer. How would she answer your emotional availability?
I think that, like I was telling him earlier, as human beings, we can be quite arrogant. And my arrogance would have led me to answer that question unknowing to what he was actually asking. as kind of more of a feminine question to begin with. So I wanted somebody that was more feminine to end it. Yeah.
Emotional availability is a feminine question.
It's not a question that most men would just walk up to each other and ask each other. Even our whole interaction with each other, as far as the way that we pound each other's fists, that's a sign of warriors. That's why we do that. It shows that we will fight someone if they to defend our family. That's why we do that with each other. Our whole interaction is extremely barbaric. So it's going to take a lot of us getting to know each other for me to just ask him, hey, but you emotionally available? It's going to take a lot for me to do that. But you can walk up to him first conversation and ask him that.
I think you need to tap more into your feminine energy. I feel like your masculine. My bad. I'm just diagnosing you, but I think you receive it. I think that I know that the manosphere and y'all are with the whole rah rah extra. I don't want to say it's toxic masculinity or hyper masculinity or anything like that, because there's just masculinity. Like, I don't believe in all that. I mean, it can happen, but I'm not saying that that's you. But I just feel like certain things are, we can be vulnerable. Men can, I mean, in my opinion, y'all can ask each other questions like that. I don't feel like that's feminine or that's weird for a man to be like,
but you know that
in context.
Me asking that girl that question was actually me being vulnerable in that moment. I'm at the whim of her answer. I could say that I don't care what she thinks and that I don't care what the dude thinks. Answer next question. But instead of doing that, I put myself in a position on camera to get the answer from somebody else. That's vulnerability.
But why is that a question for somebody else? If you're emotionally available, how would I know if you're I can only go by our interactions. Right. And I can assume, because right now I would say maybe you're not, because you don't even want certain people asking you certain questions. But that's just an assumption. When you're with your woman, you might be very open and very, able to receive what you got going on.
I like for the proper people to answer the proper questions. So, like, when I was on a date one time, this girl asked me how my relationship was with my mom. You know what I did? I called my mom. Mom, how's our relationship? That's not a question for me to answer. That's a question for my mom to answer.
No, it's not. She wanted your perspective.
And she got both of us on the phone talking to each other, so she can see both of our interaction in real time.
So I can show you better than I can tell you type person.
For the most part, but I think that my vulnerability, because I don't identify as an alpha male, I'm a sigma male. So with me being a sigma male, the way that I validate my answers through my questions is more an absolute. So to me, that was an absolute. If she asked me about my mom, now you're talking to my mom. There you go.
Okay, that's how you do it. That's how you do things. That's cool. That's cool. I asked him what his love languages were, his top love languages. He gave me the order. Do you know all 5?
I do.
Okay, what's your love languages in order?
So I like to start off with quality time, but it's not quality time as it's standalone, right? It's high quality time. So what are the activities, or how are we sharing the interaction? That doesn't always mean that we are spending time speaking to each other. We could be in each other's presence and not say anything at all and still find value in that. Next will come physical touch. It doesn't have to be anything sexual, just as simple as our back rub or a massage or a foot rub, things that connect with the body and show intimacy in a way that's connecting. Next, I would move on to acts of service. That's definitely also high up on my list. And, having something done that I didn't have to ask for is always a great thing. And it just shows that you're attentive and aware of what's going on in my realm, as opposed to, just not being attentive at all. Next, I would move to, what are the last 2? I know gift giving, and that's my last one. Words of affirmation. So while I do enjoy words of affirmation, I also feel like sometimes I'm being affirmed too much. It's like, I know I'm great. I know I'm excellent. While if someone else shares it and it's coming from a true place, like in their heart, then I can feel that. But not to say, but most times I don't experience that. I just know when you're just going along with the script and you're just saying words. And so I find that to be a lower threshold. So I don't need anyone's external validation to make me feel better. But so I could appreciate it, but I'm really great at self-motivation and drive. And gift giving. And this probably just goes back to my childhood because I really didn't get the best gifts. So then I'm like, hey, I want this, and I get like some socks. I'm like,
Right. I don't even like
so yeah, right.
that.
And I also know right now if I ask for a gift, I'm asking for something that may not be attainable for someone to get to me. So then that also may shut them out. So and again, it comes down. The best gifts that have been for me are ones that someone is watching what I'm doing. Like, oh, I know this gemstone from Peru, from the Sacred Valley of Peru, would be a great gift, right? So they thought about me while they were there, and now they're bringing the essence and the story to provide it. So I don't experience it that much. That's why it's a lower offering, so that way I don't have to put so much expectation. Because material goods, I don't really care about those things. I mean, I do, but I don't. And so it really comes down to like, what's the story, the intention, and what called this as a gift for you to share with me.
Mind if I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say you see the similarities in the order that we gave them in, and then also the reasonings why.
Tell me what yours was. I didn't get to hear it.
It was pretty close.
Okay,
It was pretty close. Okay. And what I noticed about it, and another huge disconnect is, whenever I find a good woman for me to interact with, it's somebody that doesn't feel like she has to leverage herself. It's somebody that's just in the path of doing what she's doing. So like if she comes over to my house and I'm cooking, she can smell what I'm cooking, she can look at what I'm cooking, and she can make the recipe better because that's her feminine essence that can do that. Rather than say something like, I'm not touching none of these kitchen utensils until, but how do you even get before you touch this?
That's a whole nother conversation.
And I just wanted the ladies to know they're extremely losing on that part because that is so essential. Not saying being in the kitchen is essential, but your feminine essence showering my entire kingdom with it is essential.
I hear you.
Yeah. No, I love it, right? Because there's an aspect of someone suppressing their gifts, right? Yeah. Suppressing what they can offer because it's like, well, we're not at this stage of the relationship yet, right? And so for me, if someone's suppressing what their gifts are or what they offer, then I'm getting in a shell of who they are. And if that's the case, it's like, why are we even interacting? I'm going to show who I am because I want to know who you are, right? And if I'm not getting that, then, then we're wasting our time here.
Well, I definitely agree with what you all are saying. I think you pretty much just have to be in the flow of what you always do. Me and my cousin have been recently talking about this, like, you know, how do you not show wifely duties or wifely essence or wife energy? You know, especially if you're cohabitating with somebody, you're pretty much in the zone of marriage anyway. So you pretty much doing what you do. If you cook and clean and you're, you know, a feminine woman and you have certain routines and rituals that you do on your own, that wouldn't stop because a man is present. But I think to your point, what you were saying, I do believe there are lots of women out here that want to be feminine and want to pour their all into men, and women that have done that, and they've been hurt because they've given their all and they were hurt, so they start to limit what they give to men.
Can we define hurt?
You know, cheated on, maybe abused, something traumatic happened to them that made them be like, let me fall all the way back. And that's some cases. In some cases, some women feel like they're not doing nothing until they get a ring because maybe that's what they were taught. But I do feel like a lot of women want to be fully in their feminine energy and give all the essence and pour and nurture and all of that into their man. But it has to be a safe space provided. They have to have that reciprocation, and some of these men ain't out here giving that. So it's not just a one-sided thing.
That's what the vetting process is for.
I agree.
It's a lot of steps that are skipped.
I agree.
I got over 1,000 pieces of content on my page. So when I'm talking to somebody on Instagram, especially a woman, and I'm DMing her and she's still acting like she doesn't, not like know who I am like a celebrity, but know who I am as far as you can't click on my page and take 2 seconds and it's 1,000 pieces of content there. Impressive content, by the way. And you still have like no clue of anything. Like I'm still a stranger to you. This is foreign. To me, that's a complete turn off because it shows a total lack of interest, a lack of effort, a lack of everything. And I think that people have become so numb to effort, and that numbness has transformed to where most, like he said, energies and talents would just be showcased. People got to suppress those in order to try to guard. And I don't want to say fake hurt, but I'm going to say unhealed hurt from other situations that have nothing to do. If you were dating him and he hurt you, and then you come to me and now I got to deal with the hurt that came with him, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but that don't have nothing to do with me.
I mean, I agree with you. I want to rewind to what you said about if a woman, is on your social media and she doesn't take the time to look. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of women, I ain't gonna say a lot. I know a lot of women who agree with me on this. I don't want to get to know the man that I'm interested in through social media. I don't want to go to your page and learn about you. Like I prefer to get to know someone directly from them. Like I don't want to, because I don't like people to get to know me like that. Like, yes, I'm like you said, I'm the same online that I am in person, but I've had experiences where men will get to know me and I don't want to say fall in love, but kind of become obsessed with me based on what they've seen on social media. Yeah, and I don't. And then so by the time I give you a chance, like you've reached out to me, you've been following me for years. I had no idea, and you in love, and I'm on step one. I'm like, dang, I'm just trying to get to know you, and you already want to give me a ring based on what you've seen over the years. You see, yeah. So I personally don't like to get to know people, but I understand what you're saying. Like, I do agree that effort. It's crazy trying to talk over this background, but I do agree that effort is missing. I have some content on my page about that too, about lack of effort and lack of appreciation, and how men need to feel appreciated and women need to feel effort. But I feel like it's both ways too. But I feel like that's like the tug and pull between men and women. Like men are always complaining about in relationships, from my experience, lack of appreciation. So I feel like that's important to y'all, and effort is really important to us. But it can go both ways.
I did a video about this earlier today. I titled it "Why Men Don't Like to Give Women Money," just so that the women know why the reason is. And
before you go into that, you said something else that I wanted to.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put a pin in that.
Yeah, because it was something else that you said. I do agree with you, and I feel like that's another part of the piece of the puzzle that's not right. Like he's right. A man shouldn't have to deal with your past traumas, and a woman shouldn't have to deal with a man's past traumas too. Like that's what's missing. People aren't doing the work in between these relationships, and it shows. You come into the new relationship with all the past baggage, and it's not saying that you're not going to have any hurt, or that everybody has a story, everybody goes through things, and you may be triggered even if you've done all the work. But you got to do some work. You can't come and think that your partner is supposed to do the work for you, or they're supposed to heal you. That's not their responsibility.
Strongly agree. I also would say most people don't know what their hurts are until they confront them, right? And that can become in relationships as you go deeper and deeper, or as it extends. You don't know when it is that a hurt will come up, right? And so my whole thing is, I don't judge the foundation or the weight of a relationship until the first time we need to go through a repair attempt, right? Because I don't know that, yeah, we're all happy because, like, yeah, I was out till 1 a.m. And you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. Yeah. But it might have been a big deal, right? And it happens again, like, now it shows up in a way where like you're not speaking, or I'm speaking to the woman, like she's not speaking, right? Right. And so when do we get a chance to have a time where we get to conflict resolute, and how does that process go, right? Are we able to come together? Are we able to speak about it? Do we need to access outside support? And if so, is it the willingness to do so? And so when I talk about healing and going through the work and not blaming past relationships, that I don't know what it is until I'm confronted with it. And when that takes place, that's when, ooh, I'm feeling something here. All right, let me acknowledge what I'm feeling. Okay, this person is now a reflection of that. They didn't cause this, but this scenario is what's bringing it up for me. So this gives me another sacred opportunity for me to make a different decision.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I feel like that emphasizes my point. That's why it's important to do the self-work. Because relationships, those are mirrors. All of the things that you're working on, it sounds good in theory. Like, it sounds great when you do your self-work. You're like, when I get into my next relationship, I'm going to do this, and that. But when you're confronted with the issues and those triggers come up and all of that stuff, you got to practice what you've learned. And so it all matters, the self-work and the relationship. So, like, when I say the person is not responsible for healing you, they're not. But they can hold space for you. Y'all can hold space for each other to get through those things and work through it. But when you don't do the work, it's more difficult to get through those times, and the conflict resolution is crazy. So, what you got? I want to hear the rest of this. Why men ain't giving women money?
Oh, wow, okay. Okay. So what? what
I needs to know.
what inspired this video is there was a viral tweet that went around that said it was a man saying, if I give a woman $10,000, what are you going to do with it? And I asked about 20 women this question on FaceTime. And the popular answer is always, it would be like, I'm going to pay this, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to go on this trip, I'm going to buy this. And when I started to analyze, like, most single moms, they have children that give them a big tax return every year, but then they're broke throughout the year. And the more financially sad, like, I don't like to use the word rich, but I'm pretty well off. So I
Let
recently
me hold some.
I recently just closed a deal with a watch company, and this is actually a custom Rolex that I have on right now. And I had the opportunity to get money or to get the Rolexes, and I chose the Rolexes because they hold value. And then I realized that I could never tell a woman that, because a woman would be like, "Well, just get the money, because with the money I can go on this trip and I can do this." Like, I'm like, "Oh, we just look at money different." Okay, I look at my art on the wall as appreciating assets, and me have being a homeowner as equity and appreciation. You look at it like we can live here and we can paint the walls, and we have a place to cook in the kitchen. We just fundamentally look at stuff differently. So the reason why men don't like to give women money is because to you guys, money is a means to an end. If a purse costs $100, you're gonna take the $100, buy the purse, wear it for as long as you want to wear that purse for.